Okay, so are we ready to have a go at doing multiplication? It's a bit trickier, but I'm going to show you the grid method and then also how to move on to the column method. So a good idea is to keep practicing all your tables so that they're really ingrained in your mind, and so then you can call on them really quickly. So if we did the grid method, it would look like this. So we have to remember place value. So if we're doing 16 times 4, we need to know that that's 10 and that's 6. So we're going to do 10 lots of 4 and then we're going to do 6 lots of 4 to get the answer. But then you also have to be good at adding as well, because you're doing the multiplying, but then you're also adding the totals. So if it was 16 times 4, we'd do the grid method like this. So 10 times 4 is 40, 6 times 4 is 24, and then you add those together and you get 64. So here's another one, a bit trickier, where we have 72 times 8. So I've put the grid times 8. So 7 times 8 is 56. So 70 times 8 is 560. And then 2 times 8 is 16. And then I've added those together to get 576. And I'm going to show you with this one. So if it was 22 times 5, so you've got 2 10s and 2 1s, and you're timesing it by 5. So 2 times 5, I know that's 10. So 20 times 5 is 100. And then 2 times 5 is 10. And then I add those two together. So that makes 110. If it was this one, I'm going to show you how I draw the grid this time. So it's 3 10s and 6 1s. So 36 times 3. So I need 10s and 1s. So times 3. That's 30 and that's 6. So 3 times 3 is 9, but 3 times 30 is 90. 6 times 3, I could count in 3s or I could count in 6s, 6, 12, 18. And then I have to add those together. 90 add 18 is 108. So that's that total. But then I could do the same, but with hundreds, tens and ones. You're just doing a bit at a time and then adding it together. So if I wanted to do 360, I'd have to do 300 times 3, then the 60 times 3. Oh, I could have done some ones, but there weren't any. So, right, so 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 30 is 90. And then 3 times 300 is 900. 6 times 3, 18. But 60 times 3 is 180. Then I add that all together. That makes 1080. Okay, so then if I do another one with hundreds, tens and some ones in the digits as well. So if I do 324 times, if I do times 5 for this one. So I'm timesing it by 5. So I've got in the hundreds column 300, then I've got 20, and then I've got 4, and I'm going to times each one by 5 and then add it together. So I've broken it up into bits. So 3 times 5 is 15, 30 times 5 is 150, 300 times 5 is 1500, 2 times 5 is 10, 20 times 5 is 100, 4 times 5 is 20, and then I add that all back together. You might want to do it like this. Doesn't matter if you use space on the page, just so that you get it right. So that's 1620. Okay, but then we need to move into doing it in the column method, but we've already practiced. It's the same thing but just a different layout. So if I wanted to do the 22 times 5 in a column method, I do the same thing, but I do the digits times 5 and then I do the tens times 5. So 2 times 5 is 10, so I've done the ones, and then I'm going to do the tens. 20 times 5 is 100, and then add it together again. Okay, so I'm going to do another one like that with tens and ones, so I'll do 34 times 3. So I'm going to do the ones first, and then the tens, and then add together. Okay. 4 lots of 3, so is 12, and then this, have to remember this is 30, not 3, so 3 times 3 is 9, but 30 times 3 is 90, and then I add those together to get 102. Okay, you could do the same thing if you had hundreds, tens and ones. So if you had 126 times 5, for example. So I will multiply the ones, then I'll multiply the tens, and then I'll multiply the hundreds, and then I'll add it together. And gradually, once you've practiced lots and lots, you'll get used to it and you don't need to necessarily write it all out in detail. So I know that, so I'm doing 126 times 5. I know that 5 times 5 is 25. The next, another 5 makes 30, keeping them in the right columns. 2 times 5 is 10, but this is 20 times 5, so that's 100. And then 100 times 5 is 500. Then I'm going to add it together, and the total is 630. So 126 times 5 equals 630.